Hi, welcome back. This next session will cover LLM admissions advice, and joining us are going to be two faculty members from the University of the Pacific McGeorge School of Law and Brooklyn Law School, and we'll bring them on stage here, and they will each introduce themselves and their law school. Hi, Diane. Oh, we need to unmute you. There you go. We can't hear you. Try it now.
How is it?
There you go. Okay, we're going to share this screen, and then we'll have you introduce yourself in Brooklyn Law School.
Great, thank you. Hi, everybody across the globe or through the states, wherever you may be. My name is Diane Edelman, and I've been in legal academia for more than 30 years. I actually went to Brooklyn Law School, and after when I graduated, I worked for a federal judge. I worked at law firms in New York and Philadelphia, and then I came back to academia. I taught at Villanova Law School outside of Philadelphia for 30 years, and I directed international programs there for about 10 of those years. And been back at Brooklyn for about 2.5 years, directing international programs, which includes our LL.M program and some exchanges. And I also teach a course in Fundamentals of American Law for students in the LL.M program. In terms of the law school, two things first. First, on the first slide, you see a picture of me and contact information, and a picture of Ms. Felicia Dickerson, my colleague in the program who knows everything about visas and many other things, and whom you will work with, as well as working with me if you wind up coming here, or if you want information as well. On the second slide, you can see the kind of programs that we offer. We have one LL.M program, and that's the one for internationally trained lawyers. And you can do it in 1 year, or if you can do it in 1.5 or 2 years, part-time, if you're a US citizen, a permanent resident, or have a visa that will let you do that. We have 3 specializations, as you can see as well: business law, immigration and nationality, and refugee law, and intellectual property law. And to get those it's not a separate LL.M doing only that, because of course you have to take some basic courses to qualify for taking the New York bar. But if you do a specialization, it means that you take a handful of courses that are focused on that area. You can work in our clinics and extern with other organizations when you're here as well. And just to give you an idea, our clinics include, my favorite named one is BLIP, the business law incubator policy clinic, which is, I just love the name of it: community development, criminal defense, disability and civil rights, housing justice, LGBTQ, safe harbor clinic, and we have externships in many areas of the law as well. Our location is great. We are in downtown Brooklyn, just a few blocks away from the federal court, the state court, the public defenders, the district attorney's office. And we have alumni in all of those offices, and you can visit there, you can observe proceedings, and also those alumni are very involved with us, and they come and visit the law school as well. As in terms of our law school, we are a standalone law school. So what that means is, unlike I think most of the universities you've heard from today, we're not part of a university. We are just a law school. And so we're located our whole community is located within one large building in Brooklyn Heights. We are next door to one of the main subway stations for New York City, and we're a 5-minute walk from one of the other main stations. You can get to the Wall Street area in 10 minutes by subway, and you can get to Midtown Manhattan by between 20 and 30 minutes. So it's very convenient. In fact, when I went to Brooklyn Law, I didn't live in this area, but it was just a quick trip on the subway for me to get here. The apartments that are nearby are fantastic. The building is not like a dormitory, it's like a real apartment building. And there are from studio through 3 or 4 bedroom apartments, 20 some floors, a floor that has laundry services and gathering places for the law school to serve you some snacks during exam periods or for you to study with others. So it's terrific. And it's also subsidized. But we don't need to talk about more details about that right now. But what I would say is definitely if you're thinking of Brooklyn Heights, look at the area online. Also, as was suggested in the last panel, come to webinars or live meetings at the law schools if you happen to be in the States and near any of the schools that you are applying to, so you get your own bird's eye view. The other thing I'll say just in terms of the greeting is our program is in person only. Maybe occasionally a professor will be traveling or someone will be out sick and there will be a Zoom option, but everything's in person. And completing the LL.M does make you eligible to take the New York bar exam.
Thank you, Diane. Vince, do you want to give an intro?
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much for having me. So I'm Clemence Kuchera. I'm the assistant dean for the graduate programs at McGeorge. I also teach a legal writing class. So University of the Pacific is located in Sacramento, the capital of the state of California. We are not a standalone law school, but yet our campus is more of a standalone campus because our main university is located in Stockton, California. Our very famous dental school is located in San Francisco, but our law school is located in Sacramento. And you can see my background. This is obviously a picture taken from our campus. On our campus, we only have the law school and the School of Health Science. So it's only a graduate campus and only in those 2 particular areas. We offer 3 LL.M programs, one in transnational business practice, one in US law and policy, and a third one in water and environmental law. With the water and environmental law, you have the option to complete this program online. The 2 others are mostly in person, although like if students wanted, they could take one course online because we do offer courses online. Our students, our international students who come to McGeorge, if they tell us prior to the first semester that they're interested in taking a bar exam in the United States, like we will work with them to build a curriculum that works for them. Most students take the California or the New York bar. It is actually much easier to qualify for the California bar than the New York bar because they've changed their rules fairly recently. So we work one-on-one with our incoming students, all of our incoming students. We work one-on-one, we do academic counseling, and we make sure that they choose the classes not only just to make them qualified for the bar, but also for them to pass the bar exam on their first try, if this is one of their goals, in addition to taking the electives in the substantive area that they're interested in. So I think I'm going to leave it at that so we can get to the meat of the presentation.
Thank you. Okay, so in the previous session, we talked about what makes a great program, how to choose, talked a little bit about in-person versus online differences, and then information sessions. And here I wanted to get a little bit more specific on LL.M admissions advice and then the next steps after being admitted. So my first question is, how should prospective students prepare for the LL.M admissions process? And then second to that, what resources are available to them? And then the advice that you have to ease that process. Either of you just want to take the lead on that and then follow up?
Sure. Sure. Do your research is going to be my first tip. So I would say, as some of the folks said during the last hour, visit the school if you can, or obtain, first of all, study the website. Think about the area that you want to live in. Do you want to be in beautiful California or bustling New York City or some totally different kind of area? Do you know of a particular school that has a specialty in something that really interests you? But do your research in looking for schools. And you can find an enormous amount of information about all the law schools on their websites. So do that as your homework first. And if you find something that really speaks to you, put that school on your list. And of course, you don't want to apply to a million schools because it can be very costly and complicated, but try and pare it down to a reasonable number. There are, again, visiting the school in person is great if you happen to be in the US and be in a city that, or an area where the law school is that you're interested in. But call ahead of time. For example, every now and then I'll get a call that someone is downstairs in the law school would like to speak with me about admissions. And 90% of the time, I can meet with them. But a better idea is to call ahead of time or email the director of the international programs or whomever the contact is to arrange a visit in person. If there's a program that you see on the website that's going to be in person, sign up and go. If there's a webinar, I completely encourage you to go to that too, because like this webinar, there's an opportunity for posting your own questions or having conversation during that when you can drill down on some of the details. But you want to look like someone who's done research. So when you come to the law school, you ask questions that relate to that program as opposed to not relating to any particular program. It's an opportunity for you to show how knowledgeable you are about the school if you visit, or when you're writing your essays for your application, rather than just writing something generally. The other thing you should do is when you are at fairs that are sponsored by different organizations or law schools, and there's all kinds of law school tables there present, it's an opportunity for you to learn more. So think of the questions that you might ask. Of course, if you've researched ahead of time, that's helpful. Pick up the brochures from those schools, follow their links about their admission processes and what documents are needed to apply. Take a look at their websites and see if you can learn a little bit about professors who are teaching what you want to take. See how alumni interact with LL.M students. See what student organizations you are, so that when you do apply, you have that as your background. And we'll talk about the application process soon, but it fits in with that too.
Thank you. Once, did you have a?
Yeah. So of course, like my advice is going to be fairly similar to Diane's advice. So I'm not going to repeat what she said. I would just emphasize what has been said over and over is get in touch with us. We do want to meet and we do want to discuss and help you as possible, prospective students. This is our job. So you're certainly not a burden. Like we want to hear from you. Although the application process is going to be probably fairly similar from school to school, deadlines are going to be very different. So a few years ago, I had a student. I was interviewing a student in a webinar, for a prospective audience, and he said what he did. He had a spreadsheet with the schools that he decided that he was going to apply to, the list of documents. Because even though they're fairly similar, sometimes there's a little bit of changes, like the different requirements as far as English language score and the deadline. So then he was able to prioritize as such and keep better track. So if you're going to apply to more than 2 or 3 schools, you may very well want to create a spreadsheet to keep track of everything that you will have to do. And I don't know if we should go now into the application documents or
go ahead. Yep. What's a good transition into that process?
Okay. So most schools will ask prospective students, applicants for a personal statement or statement of interest explaining why you're interested in this particular school. As one of our previous colleagues mentioned, it needs to be a love-love relationship. So pay attention to when you're writing that personal statement, when you're submitting it, that you're submitting the right one to the right school with the right name. There's going to be usually letters of references that will be asked of you, like 1, 2, 3, depending on the schools. You want to think, and I'm going to let my colleague chime in on, who to choose for your letter of reference. Like, should it be your best friend? Should it be your mother? Or should it be a professor? We're also going to ask you for your transcripts, depending on how you're applying. If you're applying via LSAC or via directly the school's own application, you may be able to submit unofficial transcripts. Via LSAC, you won't be able to do that. And then we can get to that in a minute. But usually if you apply directly to a law school's graduate application website, they often accept unofficial copies of transcripts for admission purposes. Eventually, if you decide to enroll with them, you will have to mail them your official copies. But usually that can help speed up a little bit the application process. We're also going to need your resume and English language proficiency. And needless to say, everything needs to be in English. So if your transcripts, if your letter of reference, all of that are not in English, you will need to have that translated. Although there are some schools who may make an exception. For example, I'm French, so I actually do tell the French applicants, you don't need to, or French-speaking applicant, I should say, you don't need to translate anything because I actually do it. This is a little service that we do. My colleague is from Brazil, and so she tells all the applicants, Portuguese, you don't have to translate it. We will do it internally. So anyway, so that's why you want to be in touch with one of us to be able to ask a little bit more precise question. But I'm going to turn this to Diana for her to talk a little bit more about those different documents.
That's great. And it's terrific that you can receive essays in other languages. We don't have that ability.
The essay, I'm sorry, the essay, we do ask them to be in English because we do want to see their writing abilities. I'm talking about the transcripts and the reference letter, for example. But the essay and the resume needs to be in English. Thank you for the...
Well, that's still a great gift for those who can answer their short answers in French or Portuguese. That's nice. So again, as Clemence said, check the program's website for details on whether you have to apply through LSAC or not. We do use LSAC, and it keeps a database called Unite, which keeps track of the applications that it sends to us. And we know when they're complete when two major parts are in. One is the Credential Assembly Service, and one is the EAP. The EAP, or electronic application, is one where you've answered 30 or so short answers, attached your resume or CV, and your essay. The Credential Assembly Service is the one where people send their recommendations to LSAC and your school where you earned your first degree in law, or your first and second degree if you have more than one, to LSAC, and they get certified by LSAC also. So that's a process that a lot of schools use. So really take a look at what's required by the schools you're interested in. When we know both of those parts are in, that application becomes ready for us to review. And usually they come in a couple of days apart, sometimes a week or so apart if they have challenges getting the materials together already. So that's something important for you to do. What else do you need to know as you're beginning the process? Think about the program's location. Is it a place where you could live? In other words, in terms of your budget, where you want to be able to travel in and out of, what kind of environment you want to be in. Make sure that it's all right. Is there housing for LLMs, or do you have to find places of your own to look at? These are all, of course, things that relate to if you're going to go to the law school, but it's important in when you're choosing as well. Make sure you understand the costs and fees and waivers of fees that may be available to you. For example, when you do apply through LSAC, LSAC has certain fees for each law school that a law school can sometimes waive, but it has other fees that are not waivable. So you need to understand what fees are required so that you're able to pay them. And also know that your scholarships, there may or may not be a requirement, but I guess we'll get into that a little bit later on. And I think that covers really making decisions on applying to a program. Use the tips that I mentioned to you earlier also of getting to know what the program offers. Does it have concentrations? Does it qualify you to take a bar exam? What you have to do if you're going to go there.
So what is your advice if someone is asking, who should my letters of recommendation be from? What would you guys say?
I would tell them, I would first ask, when did they graduate from law schools? If they just recently graduated from law school, like, back home, a law professor is the ideal person. If they graduated a little while ago, or if they were at a school where there was really no personal connection between professors and law students, they may have had a TA who would be able to write a letter of recommendation. In many European countries, like there are some TAs, and there are usually doctoral students in law. Or then the next best option is a supervisor if they've done an internship. Now, for those who have graduated a long time ago, like having a law professors writing a letter of recommendation from someone they had in class 10 years ago, first, like the likelihood of this happening is probably fairly small. And because maybe it will happen, but they may not remember. So unless they've really maintained a relationship for those 10 years. At that point, for somebody who's graduated a long time ago, really a professional letter of a professional recommender is would be a good fit. Let me tell you, the people that really should not be writing you a letter of recommendation is your mother, your father, your brother, your friend, somebody that you supervised or that you're supervising. It's someone who at some point had a role in assessing your abilities to accomplish a task, whether it is a task of taking an exam or participating in class, or a task in a professional setting. So this is in general who you want to think of. It does not have to be a famous person. So don't think about all the people that you know and say well, this is the biggest lawyer in my city. And it doesn't matter if that person doesn't, barely knows you. And the likelihood of us even knowing them is also, or having heard of them, is probably very small. So this is not important to us. What is important is someone who actually writes a letter of recommendation that is particular to that student. We get a tons of a letter of recommendation that you can see. It was a template and just the name was changed. Those really are not to the favor of the students, because at least for us at our school, when we review for admission, if somebody gets a positive admissions decision, they automatically are reviewed for a scholarship. And those letters of reference do matter when we assess for a scholarship. So as much as possible, try to have someone writing a letter of recommendation that is unique to you. And I know that culture of letters of recommendation that is not a universal culture. So we appreciate that. But if possible, try to find someone who is willing to take some time to write something on your behalf.
Thank you. Diane, did you have any further comments on that?
Sure. I agree with what Clemence has said completely. It's really important that those letters are kind of deep in context. In other words, it's not just, yes, I remember Susan from my evidence class. She always participated. Sincerely, so-and-so. They're never that short, but you want someone who you expect will talk about you in some depth and talk about your success in their class, or if it's someone you worked with or worked for, your success and the kinds of skills you demonstrated working for them, and can speak in some detail. And, I have seen an occasional one where someone worked for someone in a store And that's great, but that's not what you really want for the law school application process. You want someone who can speak deeply about related abilities, your ability to accomplish tasks of a lawyer, your ability to write well, that sort of thing. Sometimes people can talk about cases they worked on with you without revealing confidential information, but they can talk about how organized you were, how you performed with clients or in court. So think about people who will know you well. And I would say, again, in agreement with Clemence, that you have people who, either professors who knew you very well, maybe you had more than one course with them, or maybe you really excelled in a particular course, or people you have worked with in a legal capacity as best as possible. And you know what? If you're debating what to do, you're not going to call a law school and say, who do you think I should ask? But ask other people you may know in academia, either at your school or your job, if they have any suggestions.
Yeah. Wanted to get into the question next of, are there benefits to applying early in the admission cycle for this group?
Sure, there's always benefits. If not, so outside from the law school, so I am actually an LL.M graduate from 20 years ago. I graduated from McGeorge from the LL.M program in 2005. I did international development work for 10 years prior to coming back to McGeorge in this current position. So I can tell you that the stress of knowing where you will be, where you will be studying, and can be quite high. So I'm assuming for all of you students who are thinking about coming to the U.S. or who are already in the U.S. and perhaps thinking about moving, knowing this early in advance, can ease a lot of your anxiety. It will also allow you to have a lot more time to prep for your visa if you need a visa to come to the U.S. And we know that visa wait time in some countries are very, very long. And also it would allow you at some school, like the earlier you apply, like the better chance you get to get a scholarship award or to get a bigger scholarship award. And third, I would say if you want to live on campus, for those schools who have on-campus housing, we have on-campus housing. As you can imagine, it is like everybody wants to live on campus because our on-campus housing are apartments, and it is very nicely located. It is also cheaper than living outside of the campus. So it gives you access early on to a number of benefits, or services that the school can provide.
Diane?
I agree with that. Especially, here we are in May of 2025. So our schools, as well as many others, are filling up incoming student housing right now. So there may still be housing left later in the summer and all that, but you want to have that information in. You also might run into some kind of roadblocks sometimes with your application. For example, you realize that you want to submit another letter of recommendation or some other kind of information. It gives you time to do it. It gives you time to apply for scholarships, gives you time to get your visas, which I agree, same comments on that, to get to know the community and to prepare and to be ready to jump in August. Often is when you'll be starting. You'll get to the law school in August, maybe earlier with the school you're getting into, and you're going to jump right into orientation and into your classes. So you really want to be ready for that. And for most of us, I know, including me, reading cases and preparing for class is really different from preparing for class in college and preparing for work if you're working now. And so you want to be able to get your mind into that kind of zone before you start.
Are there important things? So even after you're applying, you apply to one law school, you apply to multiple. Are there important things that these students should consider when, after they apply and they're waiting to hear? Are there things that they should still be doing? What advice do you have for that while they're waiting?
while they're waiting, well, after they submitted the application, I can tell you that sending an email to the schools where they've applied and say, I've submitted my application. I believe, my file is complete. Thank you in advance for your time and your consideration, like, can go a long way versus an email that simply says, when am I going to have an answer? Because what people don't realize is those emails, like if they're particularly nice, gets reported back to me and then the admissions committee, or if they're particularly rude, gets reported back to me and the admissions committee. It's not going to make you be admitted or not admitted because you have a nice email. I'm just saying it does, it becomes part of our package. It's discoverable materials, so but I think, and that's what the first panel said, is like, while you're waiting, especially if you've applied to more than one school, like this is a time, if you have not done that yet, like ask to get in touch with an alum of the program, or to be in touch with students. Go on YouTube and watch all of the YouTube videos, that all the schools are posting. Try to understand, at that point, I would say, try to understand a little bit the culture of each of the schools to try to see which one would be a better fit and which one would offer you the career opportunities that you're hoping for.
Right. And you can, for example, keep your eye on the news. You might read about what a particular judge or prosecutor or a private lawyer is doing, especially in these days where there's an awful lot of law in the news. And you might see names of folks affiliated with the law schools you've applied to or been accepted to and think, oh, wow, that's exciting, or, oh, I want to stay away from there, perhaps too. Continue to learn about the law school and its community in all of those ways. And what was mentioned before too was a spreadsheet dealing with figures and things. You might want to add to your spreadsheet impressions you have or information people have told you about those particular schools. You might want to compare some of its activities. Do they have a number of different journals that law students can be part of? Do they have any kinds of activities or organizations that really appeal to you that not other schools have? And one of the items that I think is really important is respond in a timely manner to any communication from the school. So, for example, our school has admitted a number of students already for this year, and a good number of them have accepted. If I send a message out to remaining students saying, please let us know, what you're thinking of doing, or we just send out some kind of thing, I'd rather hear from someone that I've made a different decision or I'm going to take another year off, as opposed to just letting the application sit somewhere with no reaction whatsoever. It shows something more professional for you, about you, if you stay in touch with the school and let's say you say, well, I'm trying to figure out how to pay the tuition, or I'm trying to figure out how to move into this area, because you or your law school can give advice back to them, as opposed to the law school not having any idea what you're thinking. So if you do get any message that says, please let us know something, let them know.
I think you, Diane, kind of got into this a little bit. The next question of, what should you do if you receive several admissions offers and you need to start narrowing down your search and actually really make your decision? I think you alluded to a little bit about the list again. You want to just touch on that just again, and then Clemence, if you want follow up.
Sure. Yeah. This is a tricky thing. You may be one of those lucky people who has several offers. And it's important to be careful with and act respectfully with how you communicate with law schools. So, for example, applicants nowadays tend to say, I've been offered X $1,000 in scholarship from Law School A and Y $1,000 in scholarship Law School B. Can you match them, or give me more than that? So it's kind of an unsophisticated way to present this to a law school. And there's no law school that really wants to feel like it's being bargained with. But in a way, you have to do it, but you have to do it in an appropriate manner. So be careful and professional with your conversations and correspondence with law schools where you've been permitted. If you want to persuade a law school to give you a higher scholarship, do it in a professional way and be prepared to share information about the scholarships that you're also considering, as opposed to just saying, I've received 3 higher scholarships. Some students will say, well, I can't do that. But there are really no specific restrictions on doing that. It's going to be awkward one way or the other, this bargaining process. But think about, and maybe even use that text part of your chart to really compare the benefits of the different law schools, because perhaps one is offering you more money, but it's a more expensive place to live, or one is offering you more money, but it doesn't have a specific program that another law school does have. So the scholarship isn't everything. Consider all aspects of the programs that admit you, the nature of the program, the variety of courses, the externship and clinical opportunities that you can have, location, reputation, etc. Even look at the faculty and take a look. Are there people who teach exactly what you want to be studying, who can nurture you along the way? There is nothing wrong with calling the director of international programs, and at least at most schools, and saying, I'd love to be able to talk to Professor so-and-so. Is that something that I can arrange? So think strategically and get advice from people who could give you good advice about it.
Thank you. Mons, do you want to add to anything of that?
Well, I just want to reiterate very quickly that I think in addition to everything that Diana has mentioned, you want to, if you get more than one offers, you want to understand the culture, and you want to, I think Nora from the previous session did mention that, like, you want to see, like, what is the level of responsiveness that you get from the universities? Like, how do they present themselves? Like, is this a culture? Is this an environment where you could see yourself thrive? LLM programs are rigorous programs. And if you don't live in the US and you're going to immigrate to the US, it adds another layer of challenge. I don't want to say difficulties, but it's a challenge. I remember when I first moved to the US in 2004, and I had to think in English, read in English, and speak in English all day long. Let me tell you, I was exhausted. And you want to make sure that you are able to regain some of your energy and, with the right culture, the right community. So I think you want to look into that. And that right community could be, for you, what matters the most is the location. And for example, perhaps it's the weather. Perhaps it's the access to museums and theater 24/7, whatever it is. So just like think a lot about what you need to be able to recharge.
If I can add something to that, Clemence reminded me of something I wanted to say about one of the other questions, which important things to do. And that is prepare your own application. As you'll see from many applications, whatever form they take, LSAC or otherwise, there will be short questions, and then there will be at least one essay about you or what motivates you or what you want to do as a lawyer. I will read applications where the short answers are very hard to understand, and then the essay is perfect. And what that tells me is that I have an applicant who has been using ChatGPT or AI or having someone write their essay for them. And that's not something that I want. I don't expect some folks who are applying will have outstanding English. Many people applying will have good English. It's fine for you to write your essay and to have your grammar book to correct things or that sort of thing, but don't have someone or something else write your essays, because many of us can tell that. And we may want to meet with you on Zoom, or we may want to correspond with you to further test your abilities. And I could tell you from experience that if we do meet with you to have a private discussion or a private writing session, and your abilities that you demonstrate are far from what your application implies, that may not be great for your application. I'd love to hear what Clemence's view on this is too.
Oh, absolutely. I actually run personal statements fairly frequently through ChatGPT detector. There are tons of programs. We actually at the university even have a paid services that I'm able to download the personal statement or the essay, upload that to the detector, and it tells us like, we think that this is 95% written by a human or 95% written by AI. So if we have a personal statement that where we say that it's 95% written by AI and that the application overall looks good, like the transcripts are very good, letters of reference are very good, the short answers to questions, are very good, we may give a chance for their candidate. We will schedule an interview and we will ask them to write, we will be on Zoom, but to write, over 30 minutes, like an essay. We will give a prompt and to write an essay to actually be able to better assess. If the application is mediocre, I think it's really, unfortunately, if it's mediocre or average, I would say, and you're using AI to write your entire personal statement, it's going to be difficult to get a positive admissions decision.
Okay. Thanks for bringing that up, Dan. That's a good point. I know there's a lot of those questions around AI, ChatGPT of admissions process. So that was good for you guys to cover that of what your guys do. Just to round things out and to end it here, the last question we've had to kind of go through is like, if you've already been accepted, now what? In addition to that, if you want to take kind of advice on that, and then just kind of a closing that you have, since we're in the end here now, see that there are any further questions, but just any then closing thoughts that you've had, and then we'll round out everything here for the last session.
Sure. Just very quickly back on ChatGPT and AI. There is AI editor. You can just have, instead of having AI writing your text, you can use an editing system.
Mm-hmm.
If you disclose that you use AI editor to edit your text, like to me, that is very different than using AI to write your entire text. But you need to be very careful so that you don't copy just all of the edits. You want to read the edits, and perhaps you may pick and choose just few edits because you think, gosh, this is, yes, the way they present it makes a lot more sense. But so you don't want to do block copy paste. You're just going to read, and perhaps that will help you edit a little bit. Maybe it's, for example, for me, because English is not my native language, I add S's or remove S's everywhere. So I really, even though I teach legal writing, like I need to spend a lot of time. I know I spend a lot of time double checking this, but once you're new to speaking and writing English all the time, you may not know yet what are your weaknesses. So this may help. Anyway, so I'm putting this on the side. So you've been admitted. What's next? And you've decided which school to go to. If you're not in the U.S., or even if you're in the U.S. and you need a visa, this is where your focus needs to be. So in our office, we process all the visa. So many universities have an international student program or, department that will process those visas. But this is what you need to focus on. So you've paid your deposit. You need to ask what are the documents that the university needs in order for them to sponsor you for a visa. As I mentioned, there are many countries where getting an interview is very lengthy. So you want to do your paperwork pretty quickly so that the university can give you your I-20 or DS-2019. Those are two documents to sponsor you for a visa, for you to be able to make your interview. And you also want to put your name on the wait list or on the list to get on-campus housing. I would say those are the two priorities. Eventually, you will get email for registration, academic counseling, Zoom sessions, and all of that. But for me, this is like very much like later on. This is what I would say this is the area that you need to focus on.
All
Diane?
good advice. All good advice, and I second it. I would say once you know what law school you're going to attend, get in touch with someone. If they want you to, if there's any orientation meetings, for example, make sure you're in town in time for them. Often orientation will start a week or so before classes. Make sure you've arranged to move in on time and all that, and not to show up late, because sometimes attending orientation days counts in terms of attendance. I can't second enough the idea of working on your visa right away with whoever knows how to do it at your school. Learn any deadlines for housing, for course selection too. Course selection for LLMs, there might be some courses that you're automatically scheduled for. For example, if there's required courses on US law or in writing for international students, you might be automatically put in. So read the instructions carefully. But other courses are usually going to be released in the summertime. So keep your eye on email and the calendar for that. Decide where you're going to live. Get in touch with current LLMs or alums which we've mentioned before, to, do a little digging for information and find out about how you can get into the field you're interested in and learn about the area and the neighborhood. Get ready for school when it's time to do that. By the way, instead of carrying gigantic books across the ocean with you, a lot of books are available electronically now. So find out about that. Get your computer set up. You will have some freedom, most likely, to choose some of your courses. So try and come up with a doable class and study schedule. You can't do all of that in the beginning, but you should, you can think about it. The one other thing, and again, I agree with Clemence's comments about AI also. There's a difference between, correcting your work and having someone else do the writing for you. And let me also just say that if you need to be very honest with yourself about your English skills, because let's say you get in, but you discover that your English skills are not as strong as you think they need to be, get extra assistance at school. Most of our programs have available freelance or courses on legal English writing and speaking, because you're going to need to have great skills in those areas to do well when you speak in class, but even more important, when you write your exams and when you study for the bar. So, work on that if you need to. If you don't need to, great.
Great. Thank you both. Just two questions that are in here. If either of you do you have access to the chat? One was a question about, can you have short headings for your personal letter? And the second question was to note the two documents again for the visa.
For the visa, you will likely be sponsored for a student visa. So it's an I-20. If you are sponsored by your government, you're getting a scholarship by your government or by a special agreement, it may be a DS 2019, and this is it's also for a student visa, but this is for a J1 visa. Sorry, I'm going to write this down. Okay. Most of our incoming LL.M students are on a I-20, so F1 visa. I should have put that for the student visa. It's an F1. A lot of our exchange students comes on J1s, or if we have any students who are sponsored by government, they come on J1s because there are specific residency requirements. You don't have to figure out which one you need to apply for. The university will tell you based on the documents that you submit. So you don't have to worry about that. And then the other question was
headings in your personal.
The personal statement?
Yeah, short. Can you have short headings for your personal letter?
So I don't know if it's referred to the letters of reference or the personal statement, but Either way, yes. And you will see that at least when you teach legal writing here, especially for passing the bar exam, we say like, don't be shy of putting a heading, so we know what we're reading and what is this paragraph going to be about. So absolutely, I would say, but Diane?
And I taught legal writing for many, many years as well. We have that in common. I think that's fine. I don't know that I've seen that in the personal statement so much, although I've seen short essays that are less than a page, and I've seen ones that are maybe about three pages long. I think it would be okay to have short headings if you have a longer essay, but as long as you start each paragraph with a theme of what your paragraph is about, I think that that's fine. In other words, we call it maybe a persuasive sentence, or you don't necessarily need a heading saying work before college, work during college, but a paragraph that talks about different things that are important to you. You could just state with the opening sentence as well.
Thank you. Any final closing, Diane or Clemence, before I close it out? Any final things you want to just note?
No, well, thank you very much for having us, and thank you to all of the students who are here today and who are interested in coming to one of our schools. I hope you will get in touch with us, and if you speak French or Portuguese, do get in touch with us. And I often, as some of my colleagues have mentioned, I often have referred students to other schools because knowing that it would be a better fit. So we have very specific area of specialization at McGeorge. We have a general one, but if you're telling me you're interested, for example, in in human rights, like I probably will refer you to another program. But so do get in touch with us. Thank you.
I agree with it. I agree with that, and thank you all so much for coming. And my last bit of advice, which we've both talked about, is be in touch. Whether it's our schools or other schools, reach out to the person who directs. You can tell from looking at a school's website what the structure of their international programs are, and they might even say, for questions about the courses, contact so-and-so. For questions about visas, contact so-and-so. But sometimes they won't do that. So just get in touch with one of us and we'll tell you who you might want to talk to about it. And do research. It shows that when you write that essay and you say, this school is great for me because of such and such, it makes a really good impression. But just write an essay that is true to you and what you are interested in and what your goals are. And good luck with everything.
Thank you. Thank you both. And thank everyone for attending. We hope you received some valuable insight and advice from these law schools. And do be sure to be on the lookout for the next digital issue of the International Jurist magazine, which will be available June 6th. It will include all of these law schools, LL.M programs, and those available for foreign attorneys looking to study in the U.S. And thank you again to our law school sponsors, and have a wonderful day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.